pens. Oh, the money people spend on pens, the money I can spend on pens. Um, there are all sorts of pens, and you can pick up all sorts of things, again, on the high street or more specialist shops. Here are a couple of Sharpies, just ordinary Sharpies. One you can get fairly easily is called a fine point. One that I particularly like is called ultra fine. It's a little bit harder to track down. You maybe need to go online to get it, but an ultra fine Sharpie, they're great. Here are some more specialist pens. These are Pigma Micron. They're really good make, but again, you can find them on your high street. 3 different widths of line, so you know whether you're doing thin, medium, or thick, fairly obviously. Sometimes you get them with a brush tip, so you can get a nice sort of flowing feel. Have a play. The key thing you need to know when you're buying these kind of pens, these kind of liners from the shop, is whether the ink is water permanent or not. And you just need to check the label. There's not a right or wrong. Some artists love to use pens that break up when you add water to them because it adds fluidity to their drawings. Other people really like the idea that you put down a line and it stays there no matter what you do. That's fine, and you can have both in your kit. You just need to know which is which, because there's nothing worse than doing a really, really beautiful drawing which is meticulous, and then you add some water and you lose it, and it's really unhelpful. You can go old school. These are quite nice. They're very cheap, but this is a little dip pen, it's called, and it goes in a bottle of Indian ink, and this is water permanent Indian ink, standard stuff. You go on there and you get a nicer you can get a scratchy line or more flowing line. You can get a bit more life into it. These ones can look a little bit mechanical, and that might be what you're after. If you want something that looks a little bit more flowing, a bit rougher, these things are fine as well. And if you really want to have some fun, again, these are cheap. You can pick them up for a couple of quid. This is a Chinese pen made from bamboo. I don't use it properly. I don't do calligraphy, but I know it makes a nice uncontrolled line, and sometimes I want to make a nice uncontrolled line. When I started out going to watercolor classes, I started doing really, really prissy, tight drawings in my very first class, and my teacher, Shana, came over and said, "Chris," and she snatched the pen out of my hand and gave me a twig and a bottle of ink. And the great thing about a twig was I could not make a nice line. It was guaranteed to be messy. That was my first watercolor class as an adult, and I've honestly never looked back from that moment when Shana took the pen out of my hand and gave me a twig. So grab something which is a bit softer and have some fun. Now, sooner or later, someone is going to say to you, why can't I use a fountain pen? And of course you can. Here's the problem. Most of the ink you will buy to go in a fountain pen, this is just an ordinary fountain pen from the shop across the road, most of the stuff the ink you can buy to go inside a pen is not water permanent. It will dissolve on contact with water when you add it subsequently. Again, if that's what you want, that's fine. But if you want a fountain pen kind of feel with a bit of flow, a bit of permanence, you don't like the fact you're dipping in the Indian ink, and you want to just behave with a pen normally, then you're going to want to go for a fountain pen. And you will think to yourself, well, if I've got a fountain pen and I want water permanent ink, why can't I put Indian ink inside your fountain pen? And the answer is because you will end up throwing away your fountain pen. This kind of Indian ink, ordinary Indian ink, simply will not work inside a fountain pen. It will clog it up. It's got too many solids in it. It's too opaque. It's lovely stuff, but it doesn't work with a fountain pen. And if you do the silly thing of putting Indian ink inside Granddad's fountain pen that he gave to you when you left school and started your first job or something like that, this was given to me by my grandfather on the date of the Battle of Waterloo, that kind of thing, you will lose a family heirloom. You can track some stuff down. Now what you have to do, this is called Noodlers Ink. There may be other brands. Noodlers Ink is the only one that I have found myself that is a water permanent ink that is designed to fit inside a fountain pen. Noodlers Ink. Easy to find online from your usual Amazon suppliers. Noodlers Ink. Now what you do is this: you can't use a normal ink cartridge like you get from the shop where you bought the pen, so you need to get a converter, and the converter is something that sits inside the pen and becomes a dummy cartridge. Here you go. This one's got a little plunger, and that plunger means that I can then put it in the bottle of Indian ink, of Noodlers Ink, pull it out and use it just like a normal pen. So you can use a fountain pen with water permanent ink. You just need to make sure you track down the right ink if you're going to do it. And Noodlers is the only one I know. If you know others, add some comments at the bottom. Have fun.